Hi, I'm Tanjia and I'm going to be answering the four questions. Number one is, in what ways does your media product use, develop or challenge forms and conventions of real media products? Okay, so for my film, The Black Rose, I've actually sort of taken the narrative from it's actually inspired by The Ugly Duckling, you know, the fairy tale we've all, not the fairy tale, the story that we've all heard from our childhood, and sort of given it a modern twist. So I've sort of taken that convention and sort of given it my original twist to it to adapt to the audience feedback and what they get attracted to. So the ways in which I've challenged conventions is by placing the setting in an urban area in East London where the girls portray the bullies that the bullies bully the main character, Rosie. So they use their language that's inspired by the urban areas of London, so they use slang, and also the surroundings as well, the setting. When I filmed it, I used a medium shot as well as a long shot to set the scene. So you can see that it's, you know, in a school, in a secondary school, and it's in London because of their accents, it's slang. So yeah, that sort of sets the scene for the audience and it tells them where the story is set, instead of like, yeah, it being in a different time and place. What have I done that's unusual? What I've done is I've actually got Rosie, the protagonist herself, to narrate over the entire film, because usually in most films what I see is that where the audience are placed in an omniscient sort of perspective where we get to see all things, you know, like see over a bird's eye view of the film. But here I've sort of opened up Rosie's character to the audience. I've made her narrate in a way where we're placed in her position. She's sort of talking to us, we're like her diary. So she confides in us and she tells us why it's happening, and it really makes the audience sort of empathise with her. So that's another sort of original convention I made for my film. I haven't actually seen that in most films that are sort of targeted at my target audience, which are teenagers. Yeah, so I've given that my twist. Also, the structure of the film, it's quite abstract. A new film that came out, Spring Breakers, it's for 18, I think, and the way it's filmed, it's set up is quite abstract, so we get into the character's like position, but it's because there's like drug use in the film. We're sort of, you know, in that sort of ecstasy hypnotized world where, like, you know, the characters sort of do all of that. But in my film, because we're in her head, she's sort of reminiscing her past, and when she does get bullied, and it's quite abstract. The scenes are abstract, the way they're placed, because it's at the first. It's going chronological, but there are scenes where we see the bullies, and we know it's in her head because of the effect I've placed in it, and also the characters. The ways, I've actually stuck to the conventional bully type characters, and then you've got the geek, and then you've got, you know, the victim. I've actually I was inspired by Mean Girls. My target audience, teenagers, especially girls, they're very familiar with the film Mean Girls. So in there you get to see like the stereotypical conventional bullies, you know, the plastics, and then you've got the geek who wears the glasses and she drops her books. I've also got that in my film, so the audiences are able to sort of familiarise with these characters, and, you know, when they're familiar, they feel safe because they're used to what they've seen before in other films. So yeah, I've got Poppy, the girl that sort of helps the victim confront the bullies, and she's got the glasses, she's got the posh accent, she's got the books. I've also got the victim who's very sad, very slow, very emotional, and also the bullies that like to stay in their clique, and they're very rough, they're very sort of, you know, dominating every scene that they're in. What else? The genre of my film, I've actually sort of twisted the genre from drama to fantasy. The dramatic elements in my film is the relationships that we see in the film. So we've got Rose's relationship with the bullies, Rose's relationship with her family. We see her brother coming into her room, and then her relationship with Poppy, the geek sort of friend that she has. I've stayed true to the relationships that are portrayed. I haven't really broken any conventions, because I just really wanted to portray like a story that's sort of familiar to the audience, but at the same time I've twisted the genre and added some fantasy elements to it. The fantasy element in the film is sort of depicted when she transforms. I've sort of added like the heartbeat and then the blackout when she is transforming, and then the story comes back to her transformed all beautiful again. So that's like the fantasy element to it. So yeah, I've given it a hybrid genre for my film. I've got the dramatic elements, the drama genre, as well as the fantasy genre when she does transform. The ways in which I used my camera, I've actually had quite difficulties, and I've progressed in my the way I've used my camera. At first I held the huge camera to sort of follow her, just to show that the audience is with her always. But then when I sort of evaluated the scenes that I watched back, and I sort of seen that the scenes weren't really sort of quite, accurate, because they were quite jilted and they were shaky, so I had to use the tripod, and I'd had to refilm the scenes again, which involved more planning and getting the actors to come out again. So yeah, after I did that, it was more sort of stable, and I've also used shots that sort of come diagonally from the sky. You'll see in the middle of the story where the camera is looking up at the sky and it falls down on her, and then it goes back to the sky again. I actually created that myself. I'm not sure if any other film have used it. I haven't seen any which I've watched and evaluated, but yeah, I've sort of done that to give it a more abstract feel. The way I've used sound, my film actually heavily relies on sort of the instrumental, the slow instrumental in the beginning, that sort of adds to the genre, the generic conventions of drama. So it's like, because she's sad in the scenes, there's like a slow, sad instrumental, but then we see gradually the music changes as well. So after her transformation, the music becomes more positive, it gives a more positive tone in the film. And right at the end, when she confronts her bullies, the music again changes to a more encouraging sort of vibe, and that sort of dictates the audience how to feel, and also it portrays the sort of progression in the film, so from really sad, dull music to really happy music. So yeah, I've done that, and yeah, I think that's about it for question 1, which is, in what ways have your media products used, develop or challenge forms and conventions of real media products? Okay, thank you. Hi, I'm Tanjia, and I'm going to be answering question 2, so how effective were my ancillary products? Okay, so my poster has the main focal image of Rosie, and her face is actually split, so one side of her face is edited to make it look quite rough and scary, and the other half is beautiful. So that sort of creates the enigma for the audience, that she obviously goes through a journey to find out her identity, and there's sort of like a split personality going on. That it creates an enigma that she's sort of like half-half. And the title itself, Black Rose, sort of has the word black in it, of course. So the editing around it has to be quite dark, has to focus on the idea that it's sort of like oxymoron, black and rose. You wouldn't associate something dark with, a beautiful thing like rose. And that sort of again links to the idea of the focal image being split into a beautiful face and an ugly dark face. So yeah, the title and the focal image of the poster goes like that. And also the editing behind the focal image is of the city, so that again creates the enigma, creates the scene for where the story is going to be set. So it's going to be set in the city area of London, because you've got the skyscrapers behind her. Also, what sort of supports the genre of the film, which is fantasy/drama, is that I've created sort of like stars, not stars, but like sparkles around the title, around the typography, and that creates that sort of like sparkle, magical element in the film. And the typography itself, the title of the film, I've actually downloaded a special font from dafont.com and customized it with Photoshop to sort of make it original and again relate to the story of the film. So the fact that it's sort of like almost fairy tale / meets modern reality. I looked at ancillary products of other films, so such as the movie Beastly. I looked at their poster, and again it has the sort of dark face with the beautiful girl in the main focal image, and you also have like dark colours in the poster, so they're in focus, and the black background is all black, again to sort of highlight them and grab the audience's attention. As well as that, what else have I done? So Rosie is sort of looking up at the audience, so her gaze is towards the audience, and again underneath there's institutional information. Obviously institutional information in any poster is conventional because you'll need that to inform the audience who it's by, what bankable actors it has, but obviously my movie won't have a bankable actor, but I've still put the director's name and the names of the actors. So for my trailer, what I did was I listened to some other trailers of films, such as, for example, The Lovely Bones, which really inspired me because it heavily related, it relied its work on the instrumentals, the sad instrumental it had on. So on my trailer, I've got this slow, sad instrumental playing in the background of Rose's narration, just like I do in the film. And that again creates such a sinister, sad sort of vibe, tone of the film and the trailer. So all of it sort of connects because the colours I've used create the same sort of lonely vibe in the film, as well as the trailer and the poster. So yeah, I've done that, and my work's heavily influenced by teenage films that I've seen. For example, Beastly, The Lovely Bones, and other reviews I've done on my blog. You guys can check that out. So yeah, thank you. Hi, it's Tanjia, and I'm going to be answering question 3. So how have my audience feedback affected and improved my work? So firstly, when I first started filming, I relied heavily on zooms, and I didn't really use the stabilizer of the camera. And at first I didn't realise, because I was trying to break conventions, as I knew that most films didn't use zooms in their scenes. So I tried to break conventions, but after I got the feedback from members of the audience, they sort of acted negatively towards it, because they said it sort of like takes the focus out of what's happening in the film, and makes you concentrate too much on what's happening with the camera. So obviously that acts as a distraction from the film. So I thought, okay, I'll have to reevaluate that scene, make a new schedule, meet up with the actors again, and refilm those scenes. So what I did was I used the stabilizer, and I also didn't use zooms anymore. So I did sharp cuts into where I wanted to zoom into. So yeah, that made it more focused and clear of what I was trying to portray. So for example, in my film, when Rosie's crying at the start, instead of zooming into her face crying, I did a mid shot of her crying and then a closer shot of one of the tears falling from her eyes, which I thought was more effective because it gave more of an isolated tone, which I was trying to go for. So that was one of the improvements. I also spoke to different audiences. For example, I took an interview of another independent filmmaker, and they said that I could sort of portray the narrative a bit better if I sort of make the colours of the first few scenes sort of disorientated, and then show the sort of the difference from after her transformation. So after taking that on board, what I did was I changed the filter of the scenes before her transformation, and I made them more dull, and that sort of made it more profound, and you can really see the sort of like the isolation I was trying to portray in the scenes. And afterwards you can see, after transformation, everything's more bright. That's because I used a glow filter on that to really show the sort of like the transition and the development in her character, as well as the progression from the first few scenes to the last few scenes. So that was another feedback improvement that I did. Also, I also took another video, an interview of a person who worked in the BBC, a camera crew member, and they gave me some more tips on how to really bring about the narrative of the film. So at first I used a whole instrumental, which was really sad throughout the entire film, and I think what I got was the response I got from the audience. They sort of thought that it told too much of the story away before it even sort of ended, and it sort of dictated too much of how the audience should feel. So because it had that sad instrumental, it constantly tell the audience to be sad with her and empathize with her. So yeah, I actually was going for that, but then I thought, okay, my film does need like a resolution at the end. So what I did was, taking that on board, the audience reaction, I added another instrumental to it, but this time it had a more positive vibe. So after I added that, I saw better reaction because they said, okay, we can see the change in character as well as the climax and what the effects it had on the character and the plot itself. So yeah, that made my film develop even more. Yeah, and I also posted my movie on Facebook, and it got a lot of good feedback, and they also said that it actually did attract them, as well as the poster and the trailer, because I used sort of generic conventions of products that, such as for example Mean Girls, The Lovely Bones, Beastly, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I did all sorts of reviews on their ancillary products and sort of evaluated the effects it had on the audience, and I wanted to achieve the same sort of effect. And I think that I did that quite well, because after an observation I did, which I did on an app called Instagram, it actually received 51 positive reviews of my poster as well as my trailer. They gave 51 likes, so I was quite pleased with that after I did develop my movie, after I got the improvements. So yeah, that's some of the improvements I made. So those are the improvements on my film. The improvements on my poster, at first I did have like the poster sort of blurred, but I think the effects it had, it sort of took away the attention that I wanted to grab from the audience. So I edited it on Photoshop and I made it more sharp, so it achieved more attention from the audience. Another way I grabbed attention on my trailer is by adding like dialogue and extracts from the film, so the audience can get like a gist of what the film will be about. And also I used sort of like birds and heartbeat and wings to really, they're sort of like you could say that they're diegetic in the sense where you can see it in the film, but non-diegetic as well, because it still creates that abstract effect where the audience are sort of taken into another dimension of Rosie's character. So yeah, that sort of had a positive impact on the audience as well. Generally, they gave a good feedback on the film because I've recorded it and I've posted it on my blog, and the ancillary products, because they've said that it's really caught their attention after I've finished improving and editing them. So yeah, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to answer question 4, how have I used all the technologies to support all my work and improve them and evaluate them. So I actually use a variety of technologies and softwares, programs, everything to sort of make the entire film as well as the poster and trailer. Firstly, of course, we used various websites such as blogger.com to compile all our work. I've also used image hosting sites such as hosting.us, which allows you to sort of publish photos and slideshows. I've actually listed all the websites, softwares and various technologies I've used on the side of my blog as well, so if you visit that you'll get the full list in case I miss any out in this video. So yeah, I've used those. I've used SoundCloud to upload any sort of voice recordings I had, memos I had, any interviews I've had. I've also used various apps on my iPhone to complete surveys, of course. I've used surveymonkey.com to put in surveys and get audience feedback from there. I used it before to get a response of them of what they like. I've used it after to see what they've liked about my film, and yeah, I've also used it during to ask them what they want to see in my film. So yeah, I've used it at different stages of my planning. It's given me a good sort of response to sort of respond to the audience, to give them what they want, as well as create my own original twist to my work. So that's also helped. I've used, there's another website which allows you to create slideshows. So what I've done was I've taken my camera phone with me, and I also have a Fujifilm big SLR camera. I've taken that with me to the Harry Potter studios as we were fortunate enough to visit, and I've taken pictures of different departments, the art department, the special effects green screen department. And yeah, and I've taken like shots of those and I've compiled them in a slideshow and I've put that on my blog. by sort of extracting the HTML code and putting it on my blog. The design of my blog, I actually downloaded a HTML code from a site where you can extract blog designs. So I've done that, and I've put that on my main settings page on blogger.com to get the whole pretty layout of the rails and the blue sides. So yeah, and I've also sort of tweaked into the HTML to give it my own twist by adding my own name on the banner and stuff like that. So that's sort of like customization, me making it more personal. I've also used various technologies when I came to film it. I can show you around. These are some of the equipment. So you've got green screen there and sort of lighting. So that's quite good. I've used most of them. I used a tripod to make my film stabilize, and I've also used sort of lights, artificial lighting, to really highlight the characters' sort of like facial expressions to communicate the narrative. How have they sort of developed my work? Well, because of minimization of technology, it's sort of easier for me to take equipment out where I want to film rather than carry big heavy bulks of equipment with me. It's made it much more easier because I can work independently without having to have the aid of others helping me carrying stuff into different locations. It was easier for me to sort of take little videos on my iPhone and compile them. For example, I've done various recordings, interviews of members of the audience as well as BBC crew members. I've used my phone to video them, and then I've edited them on Final Cut again to get sort of like a better practice of Final Cut. So yeah, after making those, I uploaded it on YouTube, which is another very good technique if you're into making films, by uploading them and extracting again the embed code, putting that on my blog so it's all compiled nicely. That's helped because it's got my work into like the socializing world where anybody can view it. I've also put my work from YouTube to Facebook, so I've sort of spread it out on different social networks as well as apps, for example Instagram. That's sort of given like you could say it's a form of marketing because it got widespread audience views as well as feedback. And I'm very good with Photoshop because I've created my poster, which I think is actually really good, and it got lots of feedback from audience as well as teachers, because you can really see that it looks quite professional and conventional of posters, because you've got the main focal image, the typography either above or beyond, and then you've got your institutional information as well as, say for example, I don't know, the 5 stars at the end and the ratings. So yeah, I've also used various sites which help you sort of go into the world of filming and stuff, where they advise you. A good one is posted on my blog, and I've also extracted videos where it's sort of tutorials of Final Cut and how to film. So they've helped me loads because it's made me sort of work independently. And other technologies I've used, so I've used my phone, my camera, my photography SLR camera, lighting, tripod, smoke machine. I've used smoke machine in my film when she transforms. That's sort of given it the sort of, it sort of supported the genre of it being fantasy, so it's very cinematic because you've got the smoke coming in and, you know, the music's also playing with it. It's given like this magical vibe in the scene. So yeah, that was easier to work with because it gave, you know, special effects, it added to special effects. And it's also very easy to sort of carry around, and obviously that's because of minimization. Other programs I've used, so I've used Photoshop, Final Cut, oh yes, I've used Audacity. That's just to like compile my work for my trailer, and it's really helpful when you want to sort of combine and sort of make a collage of sounds. So I've used that to make my trailer, and also I've used image hosting. Yeah, I think there's various programs which I've listed on my blog, and they've really helped me become independent and sort of progress in the ways I've developed my film. So each component, each software, each technology has really been a crucial part of the whole process of me making the entire product. And that's towards the film, the poster and the trailer as well. I think they've sort of, helped me become independent and progress. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you.